Right now, tankers are slowing down, some turning back because the waterway ahead feels too risky to enter. Not closed, not blocked, just too risky. And the most powerful navy in history is watching. They could escort those tankers, starting tomorrow. They have the ships, the firepower, the experience. They have done it before in 1987, Operation Earnest Will. It worked. So why will they not do it now? Because the moment they start escorting, something changes. Not in the water, not on the radar, but in the one place that actually decides whether ships move at all. And once that changes, it does not matter how powerful your navy is. On the southern edge of the Strait of Hormuz, tankers linger in the open water, engines idling, navigation lights flickering against the dark. The shipping lanes ahead are clear on the chart, but in the real world, hesitation spreads from bridge to bridge. Automatic identification system data shows the pattern in cold numbers, where tankers once crossed at 13 knots, their speed drops to 7 knots, then 5 knots. Nearly 90% of loaded tankers slow to a crawl, forming tight clusters just outside the official traffic separation scheme. Some wait hours at the entrance buoys, places meant for brief checks, now turned into holding pens. Captains radio back to owners. Brokers in London and Singapore watch the dwell times stack up on their screens. Every extra hour at anchor means a lost day on the delivery schedule and a spike in fuel costs. But the risk is harder to price than the delay. The strait itself is only 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. 2 parallel lanes, each barely 100 meters across, funnel the world's largest crude carriers through a corridor no wider than a city block. There is no alternate route for a fully loaded VLCC. Any detour would mean days lost, fuel burned, contracts in jeopardy. With about 20% of global oil, over 21 million barrels a day, moving through this pinch point, hesitation does not stay local. It ripples outward, hitting spot prices in London and refinery schedules in Asia. On the bridge, decisions are made in real time. Some captains choose to proceed, trusting in experience and the law of averages. Others turn back, waiting for a fresh risk assessment or a rumored naval escort that never materializes. The insurance desk issues new advisories, delay loading, reassess the route, or accept a war risk premium that may erase the voyage's profit. The market reacts before any official declaration. Rumors of an attack, or even a suspicious radar contact, are enough to trigger a new round of hesitation. Then there is the moment every mariner dreads but cannot predict. A 300-meter tanker glides through the narrowest channel. Suddenly, a dull metallic thud echoes through the hull. There is no explosion, no breach, just a vibration that rattles the crew and leaves the captain staring at the depth gauge. The ship continues unharmed, but the ambiguity is worse than damage. Was it a mine? A drifting container, or nothing at all? The answer does not matter to the insurance market. The incident is logged, flagged, and instantly recalculated into the risk model. The next day, underwriters raise their rates or refuse coverage outright. The US Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from saying no. This is the real power of uncertainty. Tankers pause not because the waterway is closed, but because the cost of moving forward becomes impossible to justify. The strait stays open on the map, but fear and hesitation do what mines and missiles cannot. In the end, it is not firepower that closes the world's most important energy corridor. It is doubt. The United States Navy has already proven its ability to protect shipping in the world's most dangerous waters. The record is clear. In 1987, during the height of the Iran-Iraq War, the Navy launched Operation Earnest Will. Over the span of a year, American warships escorted nearly 200 reflagged oil tankers through the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. The task force included guided missile destroyers, frigates, cruisers, and amphibious ships, all supported by carrier-based aircraft and early warning planes. Sea King helicopters flew anti-submarine patrols. Special operations teams hunted for mines and intercepted Iranian boats laying explosives in the shipping lanes. When the first convoy's lead tanker, the Bridgeton, struck a mine, The Navy responded within days by airlifting 3 Ocean-class minesweepers into the Gulf. From then on, every convoy moved under a protective shield of sonar, radar, and armed escort. No U.S. warship was lost. Only a handful of civilian crew were injured. Out of all the escorted tankers, nearly every one reached its destination. The cost was high, over $2 billion spent on ships, fuel, and rapid procurement of minesweeping gear. But the mission worked. Oil continued to flow, markets calmed, insurance premiums stabilized. The world's energy artery stayed open not just because of firepower, but because the Navy's presence reassured ship owners and underwriters that the risk could be managed. Today, the Fifth Fleet fields even more advanced assets. 6 Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers, 2 Ticonderoga-class cruisers, and a full carrier strike group patrol the region. Surveillance aircraft sweep the lanes. Mine countermeasure ships stand ready. The technical capability to escort tankers is not in doubt. The Navy can track fast attack boats, intercept missiles, and clear mines with unmanned vehicles. If the question were simply one of force, the answer would be easy. The Navy has the ships, the planes, and the experience. Past precedent proves that a determined escort operation can keep the strait open, at least in the short term. But the record of Earnest Will also reveals the hidden cost. Every escort required a rigid schedule. Convoys moved in predictable patterns, watched by both allies and adversaries. The commitment was total. Once begun, the operation could not be paused without sending a dangerous signal. The Navy's own after-action reports warned that the greatest risk was not a single attack, but the possibility of being drawn into a long, open-ended mission with no clear exit. The lesson is not that the Navy lacks capability. It is that capability alone does not solve the deeper problem. The U.S. Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from saying no. In the end, the power to keep the Strait of Hormuz open rests as much with the underwriters in London as with the admirals in Bahrain. The real contest is not just about ships and mines. It is about confidence, perception, and the invisible calculus of risk. That is why, despite overwhelming strength, the Navy hesitates to repeat the old playbook. The strait can close not with a missile strike, but with a single act of hesitation, a pause, a premium increase, a ship that never leaves port. Fear, not firepower, is what finally stops the flow. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a narrow blue line on a map. At its tightest point, the waterway squeezes down to 33 kilometers across, barely the width of a major city. Through this gap, the world moves nearly a fifth of its oil supply, about 21 million barrels every single day. Most of that, roughly 84%, heads east, bound for refineries in China, India, Japan, and South Korea. Every loaded supertanker, some stretching over 300 meters long, must thread through 2 marked shipping lanes. Each lane is just 100 meters wide, with a central separation line and a safety margin on either side. There is no room for improvisation. The seabed here drops to about 60 meters, deep enough for the largest vessels, but shallow enough that any deviation from the charted course risks running aground or straying into restricted waters. Traffic separation rules are strict. Ships file transit declarations, check in with authorities, and queue up for their slot in the corridor. On a typical day, as many as 90 tankers, VLCCs, and Suezmaxes make the passage, their wakes forming a dense, predictable pattern visible from satellite heat maps. There is no alternate deep water route. The Suez Canal, pipelines, and storage tanks offer only a fraction of the capacity needed to replace even a short-term shutdown. A single day's disruption can send Brent crude prices spiking by $1 billion and ripple through global inflation indexes. The strait's physical constraints are not just a matter of geography. They are the foundation for a global system built on confidence that the flow will not be interrupted. Here, the margin for error is measured in meters and minutes. In this bottleneck, the difference between open and closed is not a matter of force, but of certainty. When doubt enters the equation, the entire system becomes fragile. The strait stays open on paper, but hesitation can do more damage than any blockade. Uncertainty travels faster than any warship. For ship owners and brokers, the Strait of Hormuz is not just a line on a map, it is a calculation, a question mark that multiplies with every rumor and every unexplained event. When a captain radios in with news of a strange vibration or an unconfirmed radar contact, the effect is immediate. Phones ring in London, spreadsheets update in Singapore. The cost of hesitation is measured in lost millions, but the cost of a single mistake is unknowable. Ambiguity is not just a side effect of conflict in the strait, it is the main weapon. A missile strike makes headlines, but a story about a ship that slowed for no clear reason can ripple further. Insurers do not need proof of sabotage to raise premiums. They only need a pattern: slower crossings, longer waits, clusters of ships drifting outside the lanes. Each unexplained incident is logged, coded as a risk factor, and fed into the models that decide whether a voyage is even possible. For the people who actually move the world's oil, the threat is not an enemy they can see. It is the invisible hand that stops a ship from leaving port. Brokers call this system hesitation. It is the moment when the risk cannot be priced and the deal cannot be closed. A single ambiguous event, a hull thud with no explosion, a shadow on sonar, a rumor of a mine, can freeze the entire chain. Tanker owners know that if their insurer pulls coverage, the ship stays put. It does not matter how many destroyers patrol the strait. The US Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from saying no. That is the hidden logic at work. Iran does not need to win a naval battle. It only needs to inject enough doubt that the market closes the strait on its own. Fear, not firepower, is what makes the world hesitate. In the end, it is not the presence of danger, but the possibility of it, that shuts the corridor and starves the system of confidence. Iran's arsenal in the Strait of Hormuz is built for ambiguity, not open battle. The most effective tools are cheap, simple, and hard to trace. Moored mines, some no larger than a barrel, can be laid at night by fishing boats or disguised as floating debris. Influence mines, triggered by changes in magnetic fields or water pressure, rest quietly on the seabed, invisible to sonar until the moment a ship passes overhead. Drones, both aerial and surface, circle the lanes, their small engines barely audible above the thrum of tanker engines. Some carry cameras, others carry small charges. All create a sense of being watched, measured, and targeted. A fast attack boat might dart out from the Iranian coast, close enough to be seen, but never close enough to justify a shot. Land-based missile batteries hidden behind coastal ridges can track ships along the entire 33-kilometer choke point. The Qatar and Noor missiles, with ranges over 200 kilometers, need only a few minutes warning to lock onto a target. None of these systems need to hit a ship to have an impact. They only need to be present, to remind every captain that the next incident could be real. Picture a 300-meter tanker sliding through the channel at dawn. The crew stands at their stations, eyes on the water, radios silent. Suddenly, a dull metallic thud echoes through the hull. There is no explosion, just a vibration that shudders through steel and bone. The engines do not falter. The ship keeps moving. But in the quiet that follows, every officer wonders, was it a mine, a container, a warning? The uncertainty seeps into the logbook, the insurance report, the next market call. Premiums rise before the cause is even known. This is how Iran's asymmetric toolkit works, not by closing the strait, but by making every passage a question mark. The United States Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from saying no. In this environment, ambiguity is more powerful than firepower. The strait remains open on the chart, but hesitation does the rest. Fear, not force, is what finally narrows the world's energy artery. Convoys promise safety through strength, but they carry a hidden risk: predictability. When tankers gather for escort, schedules become fixed, routes are mapped in advance, and every departure is logged by observers on shore. Navy planners understand this trade-off. To shield a handful of ships, they must concentrate destroyers and surveillance assets along a narrow corridor, shrinking their ability to watch the wider Gulf. The strait's 2 shipping lanes, each only 100 meters wide, force every convoy to travel the same path at the same time, week after week. That regularity is a gift to anyone planning an attack. Mines can be laid in the night, just ahead of the next scheduled passage. Fast attack boats and missile teams know exactly when and where to wait. The more reliable the escort, the easier it becomes to predict and then target. In war games, analysts found that rigid convoy schedules raise the odds of a successful strike by as much as 30%. Every asset pulled into convoy duty leaves a gap elsewhere, thinning the net for the rest of the fleet. The US Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from saying no. Predictable protection turns the strait from a risk to a certainty, one that adversaries can exploit and insurers can price into hesitation. What begins as security can end as vulnerability, locking the Navy into a commitment that grows harder to escape with every passing convoy. Once the United States signals a willingness to escort tankers, the commitment ripples far beyond the Gulf. Allies in Asia and Europe, who depend on the steady flow of oil through Hormuz, begin to treat the American guarantee as a permanent fixture. Every shipping company, every energy minister, every insurance syndicate recalibrates their risk models around the idea that the United States Navy will always be there, on call, ready to intervene. The moment a convoy is announced, hesitation is replaced by expectation. Pulling back, even for a week, would not just unsettle markets, it would be read as abandonment. The political cost climbs with every escorted passage. Washington finds itself answering not just to its own public, but to partners who have built their energy security on the promise of American naval presence. The longer the operation runs, the harder it becomes to stop. Allies demand reassurance. Markets price in continuity. Any hint of withdrawal risks a crisis of confidence, not just in the Strait, but in the broader architecture of United States commitments worldwide. The United States Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from refusing coverage. In this environment, the true trap is not in the mines or missiles, but in the inertia of the mission itself. Once started, the escort becomes an obligation, one that grows heavier with every passing day, and that is nearly impossible to step away from without triggering the very uncertainty it was meant to dispel. Every ship that enters the Strait of Hormuz answers not to an admiral, but to a line in an insurance contract. The real veto on movement belongs to the war risk underwriters and the protection and indemnity clubs in London and Singapore. They decide, in quiet offices far from the water, whether a voyage will even happen. When the risk model flashes red, the numbers change overnight. A war risk premium that once cost $50,000 for a round trip can spike by 30 to 45% in a single day. That extra charge, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, lands directly on the cost of every barrel of oil. For some routes, the premium alone erases the profit margin. In the words of one Lloyd's Market Bulletin, no cover, no cargo. A single ambiguous incident, a hull vibration, a rumor of a near miss, triggers a new round of recalibration. Insurers do not wait for proof. They watch for patterns, clusters of ships slowing down, captains requesting reroutes, unexplained delays. Each signal is enough to justify a surcharge, or, in some cases, to pull coverage entirely. Without insurance, a ship cannot sail. The US Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from saying no. This is the final domino. The world's oil artery can be closed not by force, but by a spreadsheet. In the Strait of Hormuz, fear travels faster than any convoy. Hesitation, priced in dollars per ton, becomes the most powerful weapon in the Gulf. The US Navy can stop a missile. It cannot stop an insurance company from saying no. In the Strait of Hormuz, a silent hesitation ripples farther than any explosion. Today, fear and uncertainty, not force, threaten the flow of oil. Sometimes, it is not the ships that close a choke point, but the quiet, calculated pause of commerce. Thanks for watching. What do you think truly closes a strait? Firepower or doubt?